Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question for Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. Just had some delicious hot dogs and a burger.
Yes.
Courtesy of Gabe here.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Gabe. So our saga of circumstances leading to difficulty recording continues. I woke up yesterday morning to my wife telling me that it was very windy a few days ago. In fact, to the point where I was afraid that I was going to come home from work one of these days and we were going to be without power again.
Yeah, or like a tree fallen somewhere.
Yeah, that would suck. We don't have any trees on our property, but at least that my wife didn't plant recently, so maybe in a few years. But I woke up and apparently the wind had blown some of the siding off of our house.
Yeah.
We don't have much siding on our house. It's mostly brick. But nope, I went out there and sure enough, there were big strips of siding that had just been torn off and were laying on the ground, and I had to climb up there with the neighbor's ladder and pull the ones off that were still there so that they wouldn't tear or break. Mm-hmm. And then today I had you and our friend Steve come over, and you did almost all the work, but we put the siding back up.
Yeah. See, I have this weird. I have anxiety, but my anxiety stems from not being in control. So that like when I'm not the one doing a thing, I get anxious.
Yeah,
so,
I know what you mean.
So I just sort of like I'll do it, and I am happy to do it. I was happy to help and do it, but part of me is just like I'm just gonna do it because if I don't, I'm gonna be freaking out the whole time that like somebody else is up on a ladder. Or
sure.
So it's like not that I'd be any better at it or any less likely to fall off the ladder. It's just like when I don't see it from that perspective, it doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah.
It's still like, oh God, I'm on a ladder, but
Well, I very much appreciate the help.
Yeah, of course.
You were a huge help. I was doing a little bit at the beginning, but I did it wrong, so I had to undo it. And then you got up there and you did it better than I did.
No, I don't think you did it wrong. It's just because the panels themselves were damaged by the wind. They weren't sitting flat, and so you couldn't really get them where they were supposed to go. But it's up. It doesn't look perfect, but it's up there.
It's there.
Yeah,
that's the important thing.
Save for the same amount of wind, it should stay up there. Unless again, like if it gets that windy again, I'm sure it might come down again. But,
yeah, well, we'll deal with it when that happens, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you want to get into the episode?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. All right. Well, so Jeff, I want you to imagine that your house similarly was damaged by the wind.
Oh, okay.
And you're going up and you're about to fix it, but then you realize you don't have the right tool for the job.
Shoot.
But you heard a legend. There is a legend that up on the hill there exists a tool that can repair any wind damage.
Specifically wind damage. Okay.
And do you know where that tool is located?
Where's that?
It's located in the Dragon's Hoard. Because you remember a bunch of episodes ago, Dragon moved into the neighborhood.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you just have to go over and knock on the door and ask to borrow it.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
And luckily, he's a very friendly guy.
Yep. It's like yes, this only works, but this only works on things that were damaged by the wind.
Yes, exactly.
Now, if it's damaged by a tree that fell on it caused by the wind, that doesn't quite work.
Yeah, good point. Then you're getting into Dragon Ball Z, Frieza killing Guru through stress territory.
Yeah.
In the Namek saga.
Yeah, he indirectly kills him. It's like there's just so much evil.
I guess, yeah. So, all right. So today's item was submitted by Sean, who he submitted last week's item as well. I think he was also the Chapel on the Cliffs winner last week. And this was submitted via email. This item is actually sort of a matched set with the item we did last week. The item last week was when we had Gary from the duckfeed.tv podcast network. The one we had last week was like a suit of armor that was created from the scales of a poisonous dragon. This one is a weapon created from the fang of a poisonous dragon. So this weapon is called Dragon's Fang. And this it is listed as either a dagger, a short sword, or a spear, whatever is most suitable to the PC. This weapon was wrenched loose from the maw of one of the most poisonous dragons to ever exist.
Ooh.
The few survivors of those who battled the dragon barely survived, retreating to town to tell the tale. The dragon, tired of dealing with issues in her home, left to roost somewhere new. A wandering stranger happened upon Dragon's Fang while scavenging amongst the corpses of the fallen, it having come loose during the melee. He wrapped the tooth and its poison sac in leathers to form a hilt and a piercing tip. The stranger was once the target of deadly assassins for business dealings gone awry. However, upon being approached for the kill, the stranger traded Dragon's Fang for his life, or so we hear. So there's a bit of a story behind this one.
Cool.
Dragon's Fang is capable of producing and inflicting the same poisons of that dragon once per day, replenishing at dawn. If for an archer, the hollowed tooth and poison sac is made into a quiver and can apply the same to up to 1 arrow strike determined before the attack.
Cool.
So like you have a special quiver just for that 1 arrow. The archer grabs that 1 arrow, pulls it out and fires it, and it's got poison as well.
Cool.
So it says the poison deals 1d2 constitution damage. So this is not 5th edition. This would be like Pathfinder 3.5.
Sure.
The poison deals 1d2 con damage on strike and for 3 rounds after, also causing the nauseated condition. So in addition to poisoning you, it also makes you vomit.
Ugh.
So if you're wearing that armor...
Yeah, more vomiting.
More vomiting, exactly.
Oh, Vomomancer.
That's got to be a thing, like the gastromancer or something.
The gastromancer. That's got me written all over it.
Okay. It has a DC 15 Fortitude save, and 1 save at the start of a character's turn ends the damage. Other poisons applied to the Fang have a save DC of +1, what they normally would, given the efficiency of the tooth. So you can actually apply other poisons to it, and they're just a little bit more potent.
Neat.
So that's kind of cool.
So yeah, you can use the charge that it gives as its own poison, or you can add your own poisons. That's really cool.
That is pretty
cool.
cool.
And I like it, they kind of give it. You can basically make it into any sort of piercing weapon you want.
Pretty much,
the DM can make it any piercing weapon they want. It'd be like, this was fashioned to a dagger or a short sword, or
I could even see if it was a really big dragon, great sword.
Or if it was a really big dragon, you hold it at the tip and use the root end as like a club. It'd be like isn't there like a big tooth weapon in Dark Souls?
Yes, it is called the Dragon's Tooth.
Yeah,
and it is wielded by Havel the Rock.
Right, and he uses it like a club.
Uses it like a club, because it's just so big.
It's just a huge, and then just the root part of the tooth is like the head of the hammer.
Yeah,
and it destroys it. Don't fight Havel. Just run. Just run.
I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of neat. Have you ever had a character that used poisons?
No, actually, I don't think so. Like, it might have been like maybe once or twice a character has used it, but I've never like had a character who's like part of what they do is use poisons.
Yeah,
that would be interesting though. Like, because that is neat. I feel like I've always kind of like I'd always look at something like with poisons, be like, that'd be so cool, and then I'd be like, it's too much work because you have to like prepare it and take skill checks to make sure you don't poison yourself or something like that. Sure.
Yeah, in 3rd edition, you did have to, anytime you applied poison to a weapon, you had some, like it was a 20% chance or something to affect yourself with the same poison while you were putting it on. So,
I mean, hopefully if you're with somebody who's using poisons, one, you'd be good at it so that it wouldn't happen as often, and 2, you would have like antidotes on hand or something.
Yeah, and I think the assassin class, they just were immune to that. So you no longer had a chance of affecting yourself with your own poison.
Right, yeah.
So poison, I've never been a huge fan of it in game. I know in 4th edition, poison was kind of crappy. What it did was it just dealt, if I recall, it dealt damage primarily. So like it was like every round you would take a certain amount of damage. Yeah. Which isn't that bad, but the way that poisons worked was that you got to save every round. And that save was a flat DC 10. Because because quote unquote saving throws was its own mechanic, and the DC was always a 10. There were things you could do to give someone a penalty on the roll, but a saving throw had a 55% chance of success. So like you would have poisons that were incredibly expensive that deal like, I don't know, 20 or 30 damage a round. So you spend all this money on this poison, you hit somebody with it, they'll take like 20 or 30 damage, but then they have a better than half of the time chance of, oh, that poison is gone now. Yeah. As opposed to earlier editions where there would be 2 saves. One was when you first applied it, and then another one was a minute later. and then the effects could be really bad. And also, depending on the poison and where you got it from and so on, the save DC might be really high too.
You're right, yeah.
So, I don't know. I really didn't like how 4th edition dealt with any kind of ongoing effects, poison especially. But this does not appear to be 4th edition.
Right.
But, you know, it's still poison. I think poison is neat, but I never really got into using it myself.
Do you know offhand if there's poison in 5th edition? Have they really put much in?
You're putting me on the spot here. I want to say, it's fine. I want to say it works similar to 3rd edition. I actually kind of want to look that up. Okay, so after a quick check, it appears that a lot of saves, they have to, if they fail the initial save, they take some damage, and then for a lot of them, you then gain the poisoned condition.
Okay.
Which I think gives you like disadvantage on some stuff. And then while you have the poison condition, you have other effects. So while that's going on, someone could use something on you that removes the poison condition and then also gets rid of the poison's effect. Then there are some that like every round you make a save and every failed save you take some damage, but those seem to be like less expensive. But well, I mean that one's 500 gold. I guess that's actually kind of a big deal. So I don't know. It looks like there's kind of a there's kind of a mixture.
Sure. Okay.
So there's a bunch of them. They don't seem to follow one specific mechanic.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. So that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard for today. If anybody wanted to submit items for the Dragon's Hoard or stories for the Funeral Pyre or questions for us to discuss, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Yes. Before we go any further, I want to say we have another patron.
Oh.
So we want to give a big on-air thank you to Jason.
Oh, thank you.
And Jason, if I recall, I could be wrong, I think he is the reason for our friendship with Crit Academy.
Oh, yeah?
Because I think he told me about Crit Academy on Twitter. He might have told Justin about us. I don't know. But somebody, I think it was him, clued me into Crit Academy. I started listening to them, and then I sent an email over to Justin, and I guess the rest is history.
Cool. Awesome.
So, yeah. So thank you, Jason, for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being a patron. I hope that you enjoy the stuff we have on there. Speaking of which, we have this month's bonus episode. It is about celebrities and time travel.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, wasn't it time travel?
Yes. So that was pretty fun. I also got up our last month's fantasy fiction a little over a week ago. I forgot to mention it last week, but it's a story I wrote, it's an original story. It's not about a patron's character, but it's pretty good. I very much like it. I think it's one of the best things I've written. So
cool.
If you are a patron for even $1, you can read that. And then if you're a $5 patron, you can listen to our bonus episodes. And then $10, you can take part in our once monthly Patreon, our once monthly Roll20 game. And also you can tell me your character and I'll write a story about your character. I have a little bit of a backlog. I have two or three patrons I'm still trying to write for, but yeah. So if you want to check out our Patreon, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Now we also have a giveaway today. So we are giving away, as always, Chapel on the Cliffs, courtesy of Goblinstone. It's a great adventure for, what was it, like 2nd through 6th level characters?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. If anybody wants to become to be added to the list, Jeff, how would they enter the drawing?
They can just send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with the subject line, Chapel on the Cliffs.
Yes. And today's Chapel on the Cliffs winner is Carl L.
Woo!
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Congratulations, Carl. And I'm glad that he won because I think he was one of the first people to enter. He's been on the list since the first week that we had the drawing going on.
Yeah.
And every week it's been somebody else, but it is finally him. So congratulations, Carl. If you like the adventure or if you don't like the adventure, let Goblinstone know. We have a link on our website, which is interpartyconflict.com. I think it's goblinstone.com. I'm very embarrassed that I don't know that off the top of my head, but I've got a link on there. So go let them know if you like it or if you don't like it.
Right.
You know, the best thanks you can give is to give them a review.
Yeah. Any sort of feedback always helps.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for all that. You want to get into the episode?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
All right. Our first question comes from Jack. This was through email. How do you deal with adversarial DMing? How can you identify it and how can it be avoided?
Yes. So, all of our questions will kind of be along today. Will kind of be along this same theme. But some DMs and some players. Let's just get that out there.
Right.
Some people that play D&D. I would even say a lot of them view D&D as an us versus them game. Like it's like they view it with the DM is my enemy, or the DM might view the players as the players are my enemy.
Right.
Recognizing it, like identifying it, I think is at the same time it's easy and at the same time it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, if you feel like the DM is being particularly vindictive or something, if the DM has a challenge and you find a way around that challenge, and the DM is trying really, really hard to either invalidate your solution or if it seems like they are punishing you for that solution.
Sure. Yeah.
That can be some signs. I've talked about a bad DM that I had where he would quote unquote punish players for figuring things out or just by going against what he wanted them to do.
Yeah.
And as a DM, I mean, sometimes you do that without even thinking. That's why I said it's hard and easy to identify. It's easy to see it, but it's hard to tell whether it's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, seriously, I know that as a DM, there have been times where I have gotten, even if it was subconscious, like I have tried really hard to screw up a specific player or the players in general, just because like I wanted something to happen and they stopped me, or just because, I don't know, I was in the wrong frame of mind when I started, and so I viewed the players as the enemy or whatever. But the easiest way is just if you feel like the DM is acting adversarially.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably doing it, whether they mean to do it, that's a different issue, and that's a lot harder to identify. But if you feel like it, it probably is.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's a DM, like they haven't necessarily like worked on the adventure too much, or like they didn't write it, so they see in the adventure book or whatever, like, okay, this is the solution to this puzzle or whatever, and they can't, they're not necessarily wrapping their head around other ways that can be solved. And then so when the player comes forward with another solution, they might not notice that they're doing it, but like it was like no, that doesn't work, because it can't work because that's not the one solution that was written down, when it could technically work. And so you're not like, I don't know, not being that's an example of someone who's not trying to be adversarial or isn't really being adversarial. They're just not being as open to other solutions to things.
Sure.
So like, but yeah, a lot of times it's like, like a DM who wants their story to come out a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sort of mentality that turns into an adversarial DM. It's like when it's their story and not a story that they're sharing with friends or something.
Yeah. So inflexibility, I think, can be a sign of this. But the thing is, inflexibility can come from a couple different sources. It might be that they want this story to go the way that they want. It could be that they don't know how to deal with the stuff the players do, so they get inflexible just because they don't really know how to improvise.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's because the DM feels like the players are the enemy, and that like they don't necessarily want the players to have an easy time or to have a good time. I don't know, but
or like it's the DMs with a kill count.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you have ever heard a DM brag about how many player characters he has killed, that's an adversarial DM right there. That's a red flag.
Yeah,
you should keep an eye out for.
Yeah. I mean, unless that's also your thing, you want to be a character who can maybe survive this guy.
I guess,
like, if that's part of the fun for you, like because obviously the part of the fun for him is killing player characters.
Yeah,
but like if on the other hand you are like, you know what, I'm going to do my best to create a character that can survive this guy.
Sure, we did have a question about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but I mean, like, DMs who are like that are very, it's a thin line between that and like somebody who is basically going to bend the rules until they kill you.
Sure.
Like there's like, no, you're just going to die. You failed to save. Like, it's like, no, the DC was actually higher than that. So
yeah, that's why I never understand when like someone brags about how many PCs they've killed, because like I can kill a PC anytime I want. Hey, Jeff, make a character.
Okay,
you've got a character.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff.
What?
Your character's dead.
Oh.
There, I just did it. I could add one. I'll check off another. Exactly. Like as a DM, I could kill a player character anytime I want.
Mm-hmm.
That's how is that an accomplishment?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like most you'd accomplish is have that player just stop playing with you.
I guess.
It's like, well, if you're just going to kill my characters on a whim,
yeah,
I don't want to play.
So that's definitely a way to identify it. If the DM ever, not even necessarily brags. I mean, I have met people that literally brag about how many PCs they've killed. Like if they talk about how deadly of a DM they are in like, hey, this is a good thing sort of way, that might be a sign that they are an adversarial DM.
Mm-hmm.
If they've ever talked about like, I don't know, if they've ever talked about their game in a way that they're like, I've had people walk out all the time because they just can't handle my DMing style, or whatever.
My greatness.
That might mean that they are adversarial. It might just mean that they're a dick.
Yeah, some people suck.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as how you deal with it, in a perfect world, you could, after the session, pull the DM aside and say, hey, I was thinking, when we play, it really feels like kind of like it's us versus you. It kind of feels like we're enemies, or like you're kind of coming off a little aggressive or adversarial.
Right. Yeah.
In a perfect world, you could say that, and the DM would say, "Oh, okay, maybe I was. I'll work on it.
Yeah,
we'll go from there. If it happens again, let me know."
Yeah.
But let's be honest, that probably isn't going to happen.
Yeah, because I feel like if they're showing the signs of being adversarial, they probably are adversarial, because if somebody doesn't mean to be doing that, unless they're just not noticing it, which in that case, like that might work. But I just feel like in most cases it's gonna be like, no, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
No, man, you just can't handle my greatness.
Right.
Or I don't know.
Yeah. When I first started DMing, I've talked before about how I was a terrible DM for a long time. And when I first started, I would plan out an encounter. And of course I would plan it out to be really, really deadly. Like I did not really have a good frame of reference for what is a good encounter or not. So I would plan out an encounter that had a monster that was like way too tough for the players to kill. And then when the fight started, I would panic and I'd be like, oh crap, I'm about to kill all the players. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So I would like either scale back its damage or scale back its AC or its hit points or whatever. And then the players would kill it. And I would get really angry. Like, how the heck did they kill this monster? This monster was so tough. How did they do that? And then I would plan out the next encounter to be even deadlier. But then I would panic and be like, oh crap, I don't want to kill the party. And then I'd scale that down. Oh crap, they just killed my monsters again. It was a vicious spiral, and it was because I was terrible in many ways. But I would have these moments where I would view the players as like, how dare they have an easy time with this adventure that I'm running? And I mean, that, like I said before, that can be a very real thing when you're the DM and you've planned something out and you want it to be a difficult encounter, and then a player does something you weren't thinking of, or they get a lucky roll and then just destroys the whole thing.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying, like, again, it is very much a real thing. It can happen even from people like me. It still has happened to me. As far as avoiding it, if you're the DM, the best way to avoid it is to just like periodically, even in combat, take a moment, take a deep breath, toss another log on the funeral pyre. Take a deep breath and then think to yourself, like, what is my goal right now?
Right. Yeah.
If your goal, even just like in the back of your head, you're just like, oh, I really want to kill that PC, or at least drop him to negatives or something. That is a sign of adversarial DMing.
Uh-huh.
It's not 100% bad to want to do something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But to try and bend the rules to make it happen.
Right. Yeah.
That's when you start to step over that line.
Yeah. Your thought shouldn't be like, oh man, I'm totally going to make sure that player goes down.
Sure.
Your thought should be like, it would make for an interesting fight if this happened. You know, it's like, and I'm gonna aim for that. Maybe like you just have it. The tactics of the monster you're playing is like he's gonna go for the caster or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the enemy boss said so, because that's what one would do if they were smart enough. They go for the caster or the healer or something like that.
Sure.
So you could aim for that to be your, you want that to, that's the monster's goal, but don't bend the rules to make sure it happens. Like if they survive, they survive.
Sure.
So yeah, so having those evil thoughts in your head as wouldn't that be a neat story? Like, wouldn't that make it interesting?
Sure.
But anything beyond that, you're looking at you're looking at making, you're going to bend the rules to make somebody else have a bad time, basically.
Yeah. When I had a character that I've mentioned before, Artemis Redsleeves, he died like a third of the way into the campaign. And it was because it was while we were in a fight where the DM apparently had, when he was setting up the encounter, he said to himself, I want one PC to die during this fight. Now, he didn't bend the rules to make it happen. He actually, in the end, two PCs ended up dying in that fight. But it was part of his plan from the beginning. And I'm pretty sure that if it hadn't happened, okay, fine. I don't think he would have bent the rules to make it happen, but that was his goal. And he did have that be at least the big bad's goal. Like once one of us started getting low on health, he, focused fire or whatever. I don't remember the exact scenario. Yeah. In fact, I think the only reason two of us died, the only reason my character died is because he tried to escape and I chased after him instead of tending to the wounded. And as I was chasing after him, he was like, he shot one more shot back and did exactly enough hit points to kill me.
Oh, jeez.
So in that case, I don't even think that was necessarily his fault, but he went in with the thought, I want one PC to die, but it wasn't in an adversarial way. And he only did that because immediately after that encounter, we found the means to bring a PC back from the dead. So he did it not as a way to quote unquote punish the players or anything, but he did it because it was going to be part of the story that would then immediately be rectified.
Right. Which there's something in that, and then that's sort of like a lot of people's gripes with the Marvel movies is like nobody dies.
Yeah, sure.
Or like when people dies, it's like no, they just come right back. Or it's like oh no, Loki was just pretending or something.
Sure.
Yeah. That's Dark World spoilers. I don't know if anybody liked that one. The Thor Dark World, the second.
Oh, you mean
Thor
just
movie.
The fact that Loki is? Oh, I see what you mean.
Loki faked his death in that one. I'm sorry, spoilers again.
I mean, by the end of the okay, yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah. By the end of the movie, I think I think it's like the after credits scene that that he's back. I don't know. Anyway, but it's just no.
That movie's been out for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and it wasn't anybody's favorite, so it's not like oh no, like you ruined the best one.
Yeah.
But where it's there are you don't want it to feel like there's no consequences, but you also don't want to ruin the game for somebody by killing the character they work so hard on.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before where, killing characters is for some DMs would never do it and, at least not on purpose. And some DMs make sure they do it. And
yeah. So if you're the DM and you feel like maybe you might be getting adversarial, like I said, just kind of take a moment and just make an active choice not to let it happen.
Yeah.
If you find yourself feeling really angry at a player, think to yourself, why am I angry at this player? If it is because of something they did in game, cut it out.
Yeah, it's a game.
It's a game. If they did that in game, fine. Then they did that. If the game didn't go the way that you wanted, okay.
Yeah.
If it's something like you are feeling like the player is undermining you or something like that, or, if the player is constantly bringing up a rules error you made or something like that, that's different. Don't take it out on them in game.
Sure.
Talk to them after the session's over. So if you feel like you are starting to become adversarial, don't let it out in game, but try and deal with it after the game. If you have to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. Even if it's just you need to talk to somebody else, somebody unrelated, to just cool yourself down or something.
Right, yeah.
Or to maybe explain it to them and ask them if they think that you're getting, unnecessarily upset or something.
Right,
like
yeah,
that.
Get a different perspective on it.
Yeah. I think a lot of adversarial DMing just comes from people who aren't able to deal with stress the way that they would like to.
Yeah.
And so when a stressful thing happens, which, that's what it is when a player does something you're not expecting or whatever, it is stressful. So you just don't know how to deal with it. So instead you take it out in game, and that's what you shouldn't do.
Yeah. I feel like it's the DM does do a lot of work, and I feel it's very easy for them to get in the mindset that they're not and they're always grateful for them, that the DM doesn't feel like they're being appreciated correctly. So like they start to get they start to resent the players and start to kind of look at them as adversaries. It's like, well, I'm doing all this work and they're not doing any work and they're just ruining all my stuff. And, so it's kind of easy to get into that mindset, as a DM, because you feel like, you've done all the work and they're ruining it.
Yeah.
So I can understand where that comes from, but try to keep that in check.
Sure. One thing this makes me think of is taunting. I'm the kind of person, I have never liked taunting. In-game taunting, out-of-game taunting, joking taunting, any kind of taunting or talking smack just has never been my thing. I've never liked doing it.
Sure.
I have never liked seeing it done. I've, of course, never liked it done to me.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like there might be like a certain level of like comedic taunting or something like that.
I suppose there are times where it is less unacceptable.
Right, yeah.
But personally, I'll never do it.
Yeah. Right, yeah. When, definitely when it's very obvious to every party involved that it is just a teasing little joke. Yeah. I mean, I don't see too much harm in that. But yeah, as far as just somebody going up to somebody else and basically trying to instigate anything negative like that, like it's very just like, why? Like why would you create tension and violence? I never understand that.
Yeah, okay. Now I said I would never taunt, and that's actually not 100% true, because there are times where in online games I will taunt, but only when I know for a fact I am 100% losing. Like if I know that I am in no way as good as this other person I'm playing against,
sure,
I will forego competing and instead just taunt, because it's like, well, that I'm not going to win.
That's called tilting.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Well, tilting is when you try to like get the opponent upset so that they're more likely to make a mistake. You've tilted them.
Okay.
So in that case, when you know that you don't have the like one-on-one skill to defeat them, but if you get them in a bad mood, it might make them screw up, and that'll give you a chance.
Okay.
It's not a great thing to do.
Yeah.
But it is a thing to do, like, in a lot of like sports and competitions and stuff. And in most cases, that's not allowed. Yeah. But you can, like, people like, in like poker and stuff, it's a mind game, sort of like,
sure,
poker face and all that stuff, where you try to get them upset so that they show their tell or whatever, that sort of thing. So like it's a thing in an online competitive games. It's gone overboard, and people are they harass each other and just get.
Gotcha.
There are people who like take joy. It's like they don't do it to get the edge. They just do it because they like causing people stress and
sure.
Getting them upset because they think it's funny.
Yeah, I think that's a little different than what I do, because I'm not trying to win. I'm not going to win. So it's like, rather than I'm letting you win. Yeah, but I'm gonna goof around while
you're gonna take a couple cheap shots just to kind of, I don't know, just to have some involvement in the
sure. I guess. So there's a game that we've talked about in the past, the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun when you're playing as Jason. Sometimes you'll just be dominating, you'll just be killing all the players because they're not organized, but a well-organized group of players, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Some people might argue with that, but what annoys me so much is when a group of players will basically show up and stun lock me just by constantly, like, one of them will hit me with a thing that stuns me, and then as soon as I come out of that, another person will hit me with a thing that stuns me. And so as a player, I'm just sitting there unable to do anything. And the whole time they'll be on their mics taunting me. And, sometimes I'll at least try to kill one person. Maybe I can, maybe I won't. But a lot of the time when that happens, when they are just constantly taunting me, I'll just teleport away to a random corner of the map and go into the kitchen and make a sandwich, because I would rather just let them win.
Yeah.
But not let them taunt me.
Right. Yeah.
Than to have a chance at winning while they are taunting me the whole time.
Right.
I just don't understand at all.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's them being terrible people. But yeah, they're having fun taking the fun from other people, and that is kind of that kind of goes with the DMs that have a kill count. Like they have fun removing fun. Like it's like people worked on those characters and they like those characters, and you're just removing them and you're putting a tally on something. You know, it's like that's, I don't know, that's. Unless everyone's in on it and they're expecting their character to die, and they're making throwaway characters because they know they're just throwing them away playing in your game. Yeah. Unless they're aware of that,
Yeah. Like I think that it is possible to have a game where it is explicitly more adversarial, but I don't think that's what a lot of people are looking for in a game.
Yeah.
I think personally that D&D works best when everyone is working together, including the DM. That is not to say that all the encounters are going to be really easy.
Right.
But if the DM can build an encounter so as to force the players to use their abilities to the best of their ability, I guess, I think that is going to be so much better. That is the example of how the DM can also be a part of the team.
Yeah.
In that they are setting up the encounter so as to get the most out of their players.
Right, yeah.
But, it's hard to get to that point. There's definitely some sort of a line between that and just making an encounter that is going to be difficult, or making an encounter that is, trying to punish the players or whatever. So, I don't know. I think we've kind of gotten off in the weeds here, but
sure.
As far as dealing with it as a player, it would be great if you could talk to the DM about it. Maybe try it if you're feeling up to it. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of how else a player can deal with a DM. Like, because I almost want to say that if a DM is doing that, then it's a lost cause. I don't think that anything is ever really a lost cause. And I don't want to act like something's a lost cause just because it's different with you. But I think that if a DM is indeed being an adversary, it's probably something they're going to keep doing whether you like it or not. And telling them that you don't like it, I feel like is very unlikely to get anything but a negative reaction. Maybe I'm making some generalizations. I haven't dealt with a ton of DMs like this.
Well, right. Yeah. We're definitely, there's plenty. I'm sure there's not that many DMs that do these sort of things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely out there because it is a problem, but I don't think there's quite as many as we assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just that most of the people that I play with, I'm friends with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, you hope for that, but not everybody has friends that either want to play or can play or, can ever get together at certain times.
Yeah. Of the reasons to leave a group, I think this is one of the better ones. If your DM is being adversarial, it's probably a deal breaker.
Right.
In my opinion, it probably is. So don't be surprised if it's not something that you're able to change.
Right. And the sad thing is you leaving is probably in most cases is going to fortify his adversarial.
Possibly,
It's probably going to make it worse, but don't let it be your problem.
Sure.
Like, it's, there might be a few that are like, oh man, I keep losing people. What am I doing wrong? And somebody points it out like, well, you are kind of being adversarial. And they're like, oh shoot. All right. I should look into that. But in most cases, if they're adversarial, they're doing it on purpose because they like it. It's fun for them in some way. And if you leave, they're like, haha, another one bites the dust. Like,
sure.
That's a different tally that they're taking. Like they got a tally. They mark a tally for every character they kill, and then they have another where they mark how many players have left their group.
Sure.
So again, I don't know anybody personally who does this. I'm making this person up, but
see this man made of straw.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it is easiest to deal with if you are the DM. If you realize that you're starting to do it, just cut it out. Try to blow off steam some other way. If you do have an issue with a player,
stab it.
Don't deal with it in game. That is not. I've never understood the DMs who try to deal with a problem player in game.
Yeah, like at the table in the game in the game. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
So
Stop it.
Identifying it is easy and hard. If you feel like the DM is being adversarial, it's possible they may be. We mentioned a couple things. If they seem proud of the number of players that they have killed or driven away from the game, that's a pretty big sign.
Right. Yeah. I feel like if it's not easy to identify, I feel like it might be easier to fix it once you've identified it, because because it's not something that they're doing super often. Yeah. Or they're not really screwing with people, but every once in a while they might do something. Mm-hmm. That's something where they might not notice it themselves. And then that might be open to talking to them after the game and figuring things out. If it's very obvious and they're very adversarial, that might be the other way, where it's okay, there's not much I can do about this and I'm not having fun, so I should just leave the group. Yeah.
I just thought of another way to identify it is try and see how the DM deals with a being told that they did something wrong. I mean, I don't ever want to encourage players to be like, hey, DM, you're doing this wrong. Yeah. But if you were to say to the DM, oh, hey, actually it functions this way, and you show the portion of the rules. Yeah. If they're like, oh, okay, all right, we'll start doing it that way next time, but for now it's going to do this. It's still going to work the way that I said. Uh-huh. That's one way. That's a caricaturized example of the good way to do it. If they instead,
no, I didn't.
If they say I don't know, if they act with incredulity and they're like, what? No, let me see that book, and then they look at it and then they I don't know, oh, look at that, your character just got critted or something. I don't know. I'm not very good at coming up with examples of the bad way to do this, but just going by if you do bring up a concern to the DM, be it rules based or something else, if you bring up a concern to the DM, just get a feel for how they respond to it. If it sounds like they are taking your opinions into consideration, that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. If it sounds like they're just brushing you off, that's a bad sign. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are definitely an adversarial DM.
All right.
But that and just their overall attitude, it really does come down to, if you feel like they are being an adversarial DM, they probably are. So try to trust your gut, I guess, is the best way to identify it.
Sure.
I wish I had a better way to describe it. But every example I can think of a DM that might be adversarial could just be a misunderstanding.
Right, yeah.
Everything that I could think of, I can also see myself doing it under the right circumstances, but with a different motivation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Actions, similar to alignment, actions are not a good way to judge someone's intent.
I was just thinking a way to kind of, if you kind of want to be adversarial, but you don't want to screw up anybody. You don't want to screw up too much fun that the players are having. Mm-hmm. If that's just kind of your thing and you want to do it, but you still...
That's your shtick.
That's your shtick, and you still don't want to really ruin up people's good time. Mm-hmm. Having things instead of being I'm going to kill that character is I'm going to make him waste that item that he's been holding on to.
There you go. That's a good way to do it.
He is going to use that and hate himself for it. But that makes for an interesting event that happened. It's I had to use this thing. I was saving it. It's Captain Jack's,
his one bullet.
His one bullet.
Yes.
Make them use their bullet on something wasteful.
Yeah.
That do that and then mark that as a tally, and because that might have ruined their plans, but that didn't ruin their the game for them.
Sure.
They didn't lose their whole character. They just the development of their character went a different way that they were planning on it, but that's still exciting.
I've talked before about the DM I played with. His name was John. He was one that I started a war during a game that he was playing. Uh-huh. He was running rather. And there was a time we came into a ton of money, and I had just bought a Ring of 3 Wishes.
Yeah.
And he set up a scenario that resulted in me having to waste 2 of them.
Uh-huh.
And I never viewed him as being adversarial because of it. It was just, I had a very powerful resource. He set me up so that because of my own poor planning, I was forced to use up both of them.
Sure.
Or two of the three, rather.
Right. Wasn't it to like restore your weapon or something like that?
Yeah. So I had also used a bunch of money to make my weapon super powerful. He then had an enemy caster cast grease on my weapon. And then he put a wall of force around me or something. Yeah, there was a wall of force. I tried to attack the wall of force just because, hey, I don't know how wall of force works. And then I rolled like a natural 1. So he said, okay, my sword with the grease flew out of my hands. And then he cast another wall of force around my sword so that I couldn't get to it. And then he summoned a rust monster into the wall of force with my sword, which then destroyed my sword.
Ugh.
Before it was destroyed, I used one of my wishes to get rid of all the walls of force, and it worked. But then before I could get to my sword got destroyed by the rust monster.
Ugh.
So then I had to use a second one to restore my sword. So, I want to say I had even already used one of the wishes. So maybe he made me use up my 2 remaining wishes, which on one hand is like, wow, that's a really dick DM move. But no, like, I mean, it was clever DMing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a resource. He put me in a position where I either had to use it or I had to deal with having lost a different resource.
Because I know we've told this story before, and we might have mentioned it for maybe this example. That like that's sort of a clever way of like giving your players a powerful thing, but kind of like dumbing it down a bit.
Sure.
So it's like they still get the excitement of getting you did spend the full money on it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's you can like if they might come across a ring of 3 wishes and are immediately faced with it and like a thing that they need to use 2 of the wishes for. So they effectively have a ring of 1 wishes, but they still got to cast wish twice.
Sure.
You know, like so it's like, you know, even though it was mostly just a waste. I mean, like it was set up so that you had to waste them. But you still get that 1 wish, and you got to cast wish twice.
I suppose I did.
So it's still kind of exciting, you know.
Yeah.
It seems like a waste, but he could have done that anyway.
He could have. Yeah. I don't even know if he knew that I had the wishes to begin with.
Right.
But he put me in a situation that we were like 19th level at the time, so I don't fault him for putting me in a situation where my very powerful weapon might get destroyed.
Yeah.
We were high level. That's what happens when you're at levels like that.
Yeah.
So I don't fault him for that. And also, like, a lot of people died, a lot of characters died in his games, but I never viewed him as an adversarial DM because I don't think he was one. I never felt like he was.
Sure.
And if I had felt like he was, then maybe I might view him that way. But I think a big part of it is your gut feeling. Mm-hmm. And like, he was when we would switch up DMs, and whenever he was a player, he was exactly as like cunning and exactly as planning. So it wasn't something that was viewing him as an enemy. It wasn't like him viewing the players as an enemy. It was, he is just always planning ahead.
Right.
That sort of thing.
He wasn't trying to be adversarial. He was trying to be like a challenging.
He was trying,
he was trying to be challenging. He was like, he seems like fairly clever. So he wanted to use his cleverness.
Yeah.
Like there's, sometimes you don't have a way to exercise, your brain the way you want to. D&D is one of those ways to kind of get that, creative juice flowing.
Yeah.
So he could just be trying to be as creative and challenging as possible, not trying to kill players, but to just, make an interesting challenge. And it definitely sounds like it was.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know. So with that one, let's move on to another one that is we have a couple more that are similar topics.
Yeah. So we have a question here from Preston on email, and they ask, what should I do when the DM pits 2 player characters against each other?
Yeah.
And then we have another question from Adam B, also on email, saying that currently DM a game where we have our first character death, and the player in question has now created a character who purposely will clash with the party's paladin. How would you handle this?
Yes.
So the player's character dies, they make a new character, and they basically design it to clash with one of the still alive characters.
Sure. Whether they planned it to or not. I mean, I guess in this case, they are purposely trying to.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens just by mistake. Sometimes the DM kind of purposely does something that is going to get 2 players. Like, they might
some sort of doppelganger situation.
Well, I was going to say
doppelganger situation, Gabe. No, that was fun.
I was going to say that maybe, I think it might be that in Preston's example, it might be that the DM gave one of the players a quest from their organization that is like, go and bring down this bad guy. But then another player, they're like, hey, go and help this bad guy or something. Maybe like there's a rogue that is sent to go and retrieve an artifact from the town museum. And then another player gets hired by the town guard. Like, hey, we think somebody's going to steal this artifact from the museum, So the question here is, what do you do when two players, whether it is orchestrated or not, what do you do when two players are going to clash? Mm-hmm. They are going to have
inter-party conflict.
Ding! Exactly.
I got it right.
It's been a while since we've used that one. So yeah, what would you do in one of these situations?
Well, so the DM pitting two players against each other, I think it should be done like that. Like don't do that like that. Like they happen onto a situation where they're against each other. Like have it be like the main antagonist or something is orchestrating it. Mm-hmm. So like there are like signs that it's being done on purpose,
Ooh,
so there is a way for the players for the characters to be like, wait a minute, this is what he wants. This is what they want us to do, rather than just like, no, this is what my character would do. And this is what my character would do. Well, then we can't be in a party together. Like have it be the DM shouldn't be causing the conflict. The like story should be like the adventure should be causing the conflict. If that makes any sense,
I can understand that. Yeah.
Again, it's just like have it be the like the evil plan of like the mind flayer or something. Like that's so that there's a way for the players to get back together.
Sure. That
make it easy for them to rejoin. Their become allies again or something like that. Like, It's one of those things. It's like, like we've been fighting this person through the whole movie, but now we're friends now because they were actually just under mind control. It's one of those like convenient storytelling things, but it's in like a D&D adventure or something like that. You need that convenience to make sure that the story goes on when that adventure's done.
Yeah. I think that in a game like D&D where two characters are going to clash, I think that to an extent that is kind of, try not to view that as a bad thing. Sure. That is kind of the point of playing D&D. If you're reading a book, I've said before, like when a writer writes a book, all of the characters are coming from the same person. So any of their quirks, any of their things that are going to clash are going to be all there because the same person wanted it to happen. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing a game like D&D, each person has their own agency. Each person can choose what they want to do. If player one wants to play a character that is gonna go into the museum and steal something, and player two wants to play a character that is going to guard the museum, that is their choice. And like that's why you play D&D instead of like a video game or something like that, because you have that freedom.
Yeah.
So, we'll try to come up with a good way to deal with that, but like try not to view that as a bad thing. If that conflict eventually happens, I mean, you kind of succeeded. You kind of succeeded at creating characters that are not stuck in one specific, in one specific path. So as far as trying to figure out how to handle this, on one hand, you can just let it play out and see what happens.
Sure.
I imagine the players will probably figure something out.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a conflict between the players, mm-hmm. like if this is like he's doing it to anger that player, mm-hmm. not to just be like, haha, like that. If they're taking out their out of game aggression in game, which we said in the last question, like don't do that.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. So like if they're purposely doing that, not for the purpose of making inter-party conflict, ding
again,
but for the purpose of making like inter-player conflict, that's that's where you probably need to step in or figure something out.
Yeah. So I guess think to yourself, maybe the answer is yes, maybe the answer is no, but think to yourself, are there people that you deal with in your daily life, whether because you want to or because you have to, it's either one of your friends or one of your coworkers that you just really don't see eye to eye with and you often clash with.
Yeah.
Whether you deal with them positively or negatively, if it's someone that you continue to deal with, you're going to continue to work your way through it. That's just part of being a person.
Sure, yeah.
Not everybody that you deal with is going to see things the way you do. Not everybody you deal with is going to be someone that you agree with or that you even want to be around. But being a human, you find a way. You find a way to get through the day. You find a way to get through the week, through the month, and so on.
Yeah, being a human or an elf or an orc.
Sure. Sorry. Now, in a game like D&D, you don't necessarily want to be dealing with these kind of things. I know a lot of people, myself included, use D&D as a way to escape all of the difficulties and the frustrations that come with being a regular human on Earth. But if you approach it under if you approach it thinking, okay, this is going to be a situation that I'm going to try to deal with as like a person, then it's not necessarily a problem. Like I said earlier, you shouldn't be upset because your agency led to an agency specific problem. So if I was the DM and I had two players that made characters that were clashing, I would do kind of like what you were saying, Jeff. I would try to figure out whether this is an in-character issue or an out-of-character issue.
Yeah.
If one of the players is purposely doing it because he wants to screw over that other player, that's one thing. If instead he wants to make a character that is just happens to be opposed to another character, then that's a different thing. You have to question, why are your characters working together? Are they just working together because they happen to be at the tavern at the same time?
Sure, right, yeah.
That may be. Yeah. A lot of people became friends when they were kids just because of proximity.
Right, just because their last names started with the same letter. And
so they sat next to each other, exactly.
Yeah, like that happens.
That happens. And as I'm sure any adult out there will be able to agree with, eventually you grow away from those people.
Sure, yeah.
You begin to realize, wow, I really don't have anything in common with that person.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to be around them if we are constantly arguing. And that may be. One or more characters might end up leaving the party. That player, one or both of the players, might end up having to make a new character. If that happens, it is not inherently bad. Now, I don't want anybody out there to do this on purpose. You know, again, it's whether you want it to be an in-character issue or an out-of-character issue. And it can feel really sucky if you have to retire a character that you like because of something another player did. Yeah. But if you like that character, don't retire the character. Find a way for that character to deal with the clashing in-game.
Right, yeah.
If you're like, well, I don't really like, I wanted to try a different character anyway. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Sure.
Make a new character. But if you like that character, don't give up because of something another player did. Stick with that character like you do in real life. Like you do when you get your dream job and you hate one of your coworkers. Find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
In-game. That will result in a much better game than if it is just everybody agreeing with each other all the time.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe it's not what you're looking for in the game. I can totally get behind that.
That's true.
Maybe you're just trying to play the game for escapism. You just want a fun time. You don't want to have to deal with all that. In which case, go ahead and make a new character. Maybe bring back your other character some other time when you know, maybe something changes.
Yeah.
But try not to view it as an inherent problem. So, you know, it might seem really scary at first. It might seem like this is a problem. It might seem like this is something that I'm going to be mad at that player for doing. Try not to. That player has as much right to play a character that clashes with your character as you have a right to play a character that doesn't. Mm-hmm. Like it is well within your rights. It's well within their rights. If it just is souring your enjoyment of the game as a whole, then maybe you should leave the group. I don't ever want to say you should or you shouldn't give in to someone else's antagonism. I don't know if it is antagonism in either of these cases, but it feels sucky letting another player dictate how you enjoy your game, in which case, like, I think the best choice is to leave the group if you are not having fun with it. But that's not because of what that other player did. It's because the game is not what you wanted, and that's not necessarily anybody's fault. If you think that there's a problem, maybe talk to the DM. Maybe, but again, I don't want the DM to then say, hey, player number 2, you're not allowed to play that character because it conflicts with player A.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Huh.
It is a tough situation, and I want to urge you to deal with it. I mean, I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean try and view it as a situation like this is an obstacle I'm going to overcome. Just like if something happens in game, like if just let's say your character gets killed. How are you going to deal with that problem? The same way you'll deal with this problem. You'll find a way to get over it. You'll find a way to enjoy the end result.
Yeah.
If you have to make a new character in order to keep enjoying the game, make a new character to keep enjoying the game. Try not to be bitter against that other character or that other player. I doubt they are doing it to bother you as a player. They might be doing it to bother your character. But if you have an out-of-game issue with them, talk to them out of game. If you can get past it by making another character, make another character. If you want to stick with your character and you want to insist, no, I've been a part of this group longer than you, I'm not going to give in to whatever it is you want to do. Stand up for yourself. Sure. You know, if it is worth it, stand up for yourself. If it isn't, move past it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll tell you, it probably is. It probably isn't worth stressing out over.
Sure.
You know, things that we don't like happen in games all the time. Like I said, my character died in this battle that a DM ran, and it was very, very troubling because I really, really liked that character. The character Artemis, not Ichi Wong and his sword, but with Artemis Red Sleeves, he died in this very climactic encounter, and I was really broken up about it because I really, really liked that character. But I found a way to make it great, and it was the best thing that ever happened to that character.
Sure.
So it's not always going to be the best thing that ever happened to your character when another player makes a character that is specifically designed to
clash
with you. Yeah. But it might be. Good might come of it.
Right.
I've said before, and I'll say it again. I love when I'm watching a movie or a TV show or whatever, where two of the characters hate each other, but they continue to work together. They have to work together.
Yeah, they have to find a way to make it work.
If the world is in danger, two people that hate each other will set aside their differences to work together. They won't like each other. They might like each other by the time it's over, but I like it better when they don't. When Goku and Vegeta still hate each other at the end of the Buu saga, even though they have worked together to save the world so many times, I think that is a much better story than when it's like, okay, well, we beat the bad guy. Let's set aside our differences, friend. And then they shake hands or whatever.
It's like, no, we beat the bad guy. We're going to go back to the way things were when we hated each other. It's like,
exactly.
Like, you know, like, yeah, there's a few moments in Dragon Ball Super where they kind of bring that, like they bring him, it's just like, hey, do you want to work together again? And they're like, no. And they're like, yeah, I didn't think so either.
Exactly.
Like they were like in very friendly manner saying like, we're never going to work together and be friends.
Yeah.
But you know, we're in each other's lives because we make each other stronger. And that's just how their relationship works. And they're okay with it.
Yeah. There's a time in the Buu saga where the two of them fuse together. They use these earrings that like permanently fuse them together into one being, because they have to in order to beat the bad guy. Yeah. And then they end up getting split. It ends up not being permanent. They have the chance to do it again, and they both say no.
Yeah.
Both of them refuse to be that close to one another because despite all that has happened, they just cannot reconcile their differences.
Right.
And I think that is a much better story than every single other story out there where the good guy and the bad guy work together and they become best friends. I can't stand that because I've seen it so many times.
Well, because it's a neat thing, but it stops being interesting after that point.
Exactly. When it becomes the norm.
Yeah. Like if that's like the very end of the series, then that's sort of like, oh, okay, cool. They got together and that's fine. And that's the end of everything.
Sure.
But when if you continue that series, like if the next season happens and they're best buddies, like they're either going to write something else in there that makes them mad at each other again. And so just they can repeat it over and over again.
Sure.
Or it's just not interesting anymore because it's like, now they're just friends.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You're going to forgive him for that thing. All right. Whatever. It's not going to, all right.
Yeah. So if I can, I want to encourage you not to view conflict between characters or potential conflict as a bad thing. I think that it is, to an extent, it is kind of the point of the game. If that's not what you're looking for in a game, then do whatever you have to do to enjoy it. If that means leaving the group, if it means making a new character, do it.
Yeah.
But don't harbor someone else bad will or ill will because they exercised their right as a player to make a character that is whatever they want.
Uh-huh.
If there were some ground rules that were set up at the beginning of the campaign, like, hey, this is not going to be an evil campaign, then don't make a chaotic evil character in a group of lawful goods or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Although I have said on social media quite a bit that people of different alignments can get along.
Yeah.
Just like people of the same alignment aren't guaranteed to agree.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So I don't know. Do whatever you have to do to enjoy the game. Don't hate somebody else because they're doing what they want to do to enjoy the game. Try to view inter-party conflict, ding, 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 as...
That's a hat trick.
Yes. Try to view it as a great opportunity to do something you wouldn't have done otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope that helps because I really think that kind of conflict can be really interesting. It can lead to things that you never would have seen and that will be what you remember about the campaign for years to come.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that'll do it for questions for today.
Okay.
So I think we should take a deep breath. And let's toss another log onto the funeral pyre. This story was submitted by Adam via email, and Adam says, "We unfortunately had another death last night."
Uh-oh.
Although this was submitted a while ago, so it was not last night.
Okay.
We unfortunately had another death last night. Our Aasimar gunslinger, Lord Scotchberry,
Ooh.
after multiple "Are you sure?" warnings from me, stepped onto an incomplete and malfunctioning teleportation circle. He rolled on the pre-made random table, getting a 1. He was transported 5,000 leagues under the nearest ocean, whereupon he drowned.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would have been a little bit more interesting if he didn't drown.
Right.
If he died due to some other... He starved to death. I don't know. He was shot.
Because he's a gunslinger.
Yes.
I mean, jeez. Drowning's a rough way to go, I feel like. So, like, if he's a gunslinger, maybe he could have shot himself. But then,
maybe.
The gun doesn't work underwater.
That's true. That's true. So yeah.
That's rough.
That is rough. I mean, it sounds like he was confident in what was going to happen.
Well, there are those moments when you're like, let's just see what happens. Like, it's a teleportation, like something neat or something really cool and beneficial might happen. Or you get teleported to the bottom of the ocean.
Or you get teleported to the bottom of the ocean. I can imagine quite a few pre-written adventures, for example, where there's something that it's like, why would anybody ever do that? But something good can happen from it.
Oh, right, yeah.
So,
well, yeah, it's the why would anybody do that? That is player bait. That is a role player bait. Like, they're gonna go for it. Like, because there's gonna be plenty of people who are like, he's like, no, you don't do that. Why would you do that? That's stupid. But like, there's always gonna be their characters like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna step on that I'm gonna do it.
What could happen? I'm gonna try it out.
You know,
we've been arguing about it for half an hour out of game. My character steps on the circle.
Right. He's like,
what happens?
That dragon, the dragon that looks like it's dead with even though it's making breathing noise. I'm gonna poke it. I'm gonna poke that dragon. I'm gonna poke the dragon. I'm gonna do it. Right in the eye. Right in the eye.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
All right.
Why else did I buy this 10-foot pole?
You died. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the funeral pyre today.
Okay.
So let us raise a glass in memory of Lord Scotchberry.
Delicious.
Who was a little bit too sure. Clink.
Lord Scotchberry. That sounds like a nice like microbrew beer or something like that.
Maybe in addition to being a gunslinger, he was also a sommelier. So a wine expert. Anyway, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We recently started a Patreon, so check out the rewards at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. And if you'd like to submit some of your childhood memories of going to the arcade, either write them to us in an email or record it yourself and send it to me that way. And you can send those to arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Whoa. Gabe! The ding machine! It's malfunctioning!
It's stuck, I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh.
Time to abort!
Ding.